Hello and welcome back to Tay Radio Marin. I am your host, Javier Vicuna, and today I'm joined by my co-host,
Kimberly Escobar.
And today we are joined by Adonis Prince and James. Thank you both for being with us today. We're going to be talking a bit more about the probation department and the juvenile justice system today. So we're really excited to have you both here. Adonis, could you just introduce yourself and kind of give us a bit more of your background?
So hi, my name is Adonis Prince, 25 years old. I've been a deputy probation officer for 7 months now. Graduated in 2016 from Emory High in Oakland, California, borderline of Emeryville. Went to Sac State from 2016 to 2019. I obtained my bachelor's degree in criminal justice. Right out of high school, I was on a travel basketball team. So by the age of 20, I went to 28 states.
Wow.
I went directly into payroll. So I was a clerk, an administrator, and then a specialist. I was also a youth mentor at the YMCA in Richmond. Let's see, I'm also a barber. I'm currently in an apprenticeship program.
Oh, wow, look at that.
And then I was also a retail manager at Shoe Palace for 3 years. So I have a range of...
a range of different, you're a jack of all trades. Yeah. Awesome. Well, thanks for introducing yourself, Adonis. And James.
I'm James. I was on probation for 2 years, and for the last 6 months, Adonis was my probation officer, and I recently just got off.
Oh, so you just got off probation. Awesome. Well, congratulations.
Thank you.
And thank you both for being with us today. So right before we kind of delve into some of the questions we have prepared for you guys, I wanted to ask you guys, what's your favorite go-to lunch dinner spot or lunch spot? Like, what do you guys usually like having for lunch? Do you guys eat like a small lunch, big lunch? Is there a local place you guys like going to?
I think for me, it depends because no day is the same for a probation officer. So we have designated lunch hours, but 9 times out of 10, we don't take lunch when we're allocated. So, I mean, if I'm in the field, I'll just grab whatever's nearby. I try to meal prep, but that's expensive and time consuming.
Yeah.
So it's on a day-to-day basis for me.
Gotcha. How about you, James?
Me and my grandma just cook a lot, so we don't go out as much.
Oh, look at that! So, but you cook your own meals.
Yeah.
Okay. What's your favorite home cooked meal?
My grandma makes, well, it's technically my aunt's recipe, but she makes this really good fried chicken.
Ooh, love me some fried chicken. That's awesome. All right, great. How about you, Kim?
I also don't eat that much. But if I were to, for lunch, I would say Chick-fil-A.
Chick-fil-A.
Yes.
Okay. Closed on Sundays.
Yeah.
So, all right. So, yeah. And then for me, it'd have to be just, man, I've tried since the Multicultural Center is located in downtown San Rafael, I've had a chance to try out all the different, basically all the spots here. And I think I always just find myself going back to the Indian buffet. Oh. What were you going to say?
Soul food. You guys
soul food?
Soul food.
Okay. Soul food was now, but honestly, that gets really tiring after a while. The Indian buffets here on 4th Street in San Rafael, all amazing.
When you say soul food, what type of soul food are you talking about?
I'm not talking about SOUL food.
Oh, okay.
I'm talking about soul food, like the Puerto Rican cuisine place here. But I know which soul food you're talking about, and I wish we had a soul food place like that here in Marin. I don't know of any soul food places here in Marin actually.
Me neither.
Wait, that's not soul food?
No, so do you want to actually describe what soul food is?
Okay, so being that I'm African American, generally all holidays, that's what we would have. And it's fried chicken,
collard greens,
yams, dressing, potato salad,
oxtail.
Yeah.
Love all that, man. So I know. So it's like that. It's just really, really great food, and unfortunately here in Marin, we just don't have very many spots like that, or any spots at all. But actually, speaking of that, there's a black-owned burger place that's opening up here on 4th Street. That was actually originally from Oakland. They're called Malibu's Burgers, and I've been looking forward to them opening for the past year. But they've been through delay because of all of the different permits and stuff that they have to do on 4th Street. So it's been interesting following them on social media and seeing that whole business process. But yeah, well, thanks for sharing. Hopefully we didn't get hungry off of that. But yeah, so just kind of moving on. So starting with you, Adonis, I wanted to ask you, so what made you want to become a probation officer?
So I've always aspired to be within the criminal justice realm. Growing up, I was told that I was very argumentative. So being a lawyer was what I assumed I would be. The older I got, the more educated I became. I realized the level of impact that you'd have amongst the community is minimal. Oftentimes, those who are incarcerated and actually need lawyers, they generally just get like public defenders, and no shade on them. But you hear oftentimes,
What's a public defender? Is that like a lawyer?
yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
And oftentimes when you first start, you have a number of cases, so you're just kind of pushing them through. And again, no shade towards them. This is just the understanding that I had up and coming. But I wanted to be able to work with a series of individuals, those who genuinely needed assistance. Unfortunately, it's a ton of minorities that's incarcerated.
Yep.
And so that was, growing up, that's who I wanted to serve. But as I got older, I just wanted to be able to give youth everything that I yearned for when I was growing up. So mentorship, guidance, just an ear that'll just listen, right?
Yeah.
So I started off wanting to be a lawyer, and then I wanted to be a detective 'cause I just thought it was fun.
Like Batman.
Yeah. But there's generally two routes to being a detective. So you're either a private investigator or you're a police officer. Generally,
Really? So police officers are considered detectives?
well, you're going to start off as an officer and then graduate to a detective.
Oh, interesting. I didn't know
It's
that.
generally about 8 to 10 years to be a detective. So I graduated in 2016. Prior to that, or during that time span, it was the whole Black Lives Matter movement, and it was just a lot of commotion as is, right?
Yeah.
Within policing. So if my ultimate goal was to get back to my community, from the perspective of my community, I would be seen as like a traitor or, Team Blue or whatever may have you. But my ultimate goal was to give back to them. So I didn't want to have to risk my life to ultimately help, my own people. So I kind of drifted from that. And then I was kind of lost. I didn't know what avenue to take. I just knew I really wanted to give back primarily to the youth. Adults, as they get older, their minds kind of fixated on certain things.
Yeah.
Whereas youth, you're given more of an opportunity, more time to kind of change their perspectives on things. So I have some family members who are probation officers. And honestly, a probation officer is kind of like an overpaid mentor, in my opinion, because you're put on probation for whatever it is that you've done, right? But once you're on probation, now you have access to a series of resources. Sometimes these kids, it's the first time that they've ever received discipline or mentorship or guidance, right? So from the community perspective, a lot of people just don't even know what it is, let alone what we have to offer. So it's been a blessing, man. It's been a blessing. I had no idea what I was getting myself into, but I love it.
Awesome. Kim, did you want to follow up?
I just wanted to ask you, James, if you can give a little background on your school and kind of what has occurred within those 2 years of being on probation, if you're comfortable with saying.
Well, so I didn't go to school for 2 years, my 8th grade and then my freshman year. And no hate on Archie or anything, but personally for me, that didn't work out well. And so San Andreas is where my mom went, and she wanted me to go last year too. But I enrolled with my dad this year. But I like it a lot better. It's very like focused on the kids pretty much and like actually getting to know you instead of just like throwing a bunch of words at your face like this is what you're learning today. So
that's what I've heard from so from my perspective, I know that because I have some friends who have been in what do you call them, continuation schools, right? There's a Madrone High School,
Right.
which is where SR is, and I went to SR, but I had friends in Madrone, and every time they tell me that they like it so much better
Right.
than the school system that they have.
they're usually a lot smaller too, so it's
Yeah.
like you don't have all that
Right.
stupid school drama going on.
Yeah, no,
So not getting out.
totally. So like, could you kind of describe that though? Like what was it that was different that you liked about it? Like education wise, like how they taught you, like, was it like how different was that? Yeah. Like the way they were
So-
teaching you.
At Archie, I had a big problem with just staying in class. Like I couldn't just sit down for that long. And so I was always out just walking the halls doing that kind of stuff. But at San Andreas, classes are only like 40 minutes, something like that. And a lot of the times, the teachers will like just have conversations with you instead of like every day isn't going to be about whatever you're learning. It's going to be like more about you and like your life.
And so it's more like life lessons,
Right.
and less
Right.
like
It's just teaching you in a different way. It's like, because you know how in they call them normal schools, but you know, like the public schools,
public schools. Yeah.
right? It's like they have a certain curriculum and that's what it's based on. If we have questions about something else that we're not learning about, like they'll change the whole thing over to that just so we can like learn about that. So it's cool.
That's how it was for me too, because I went to Marin Community School and it was the same. I loved it so much better because I went to SR before. And for me, it was the teachers. The teachers are also like welcoming, and it was just like I can feel that they really wanted to like help me and to help me succeed in my during school.
Yeah.
And then because of that, I also like graduated early, and for me it was like all a good thing, and I really loved it. And then I still like see them from time to time, but yeah, and I think it's always like really, like what's the word? It's like these schools are always like really like fawned upon because
Yeah.
because of like their name, but it's like the teachers there are actually trying to help instead of like all these other public schools. Like none of the teachers try to prevent that from happening in the first place. Most of the time teachers, if there's a fight going on or something, they watch it. If another student's being disrespectful in the classroom, they don't necessarily say that. Or that's what I experienced in SR. Like if there was someone being racist to someone else, they wouldn't say anything. They let it be or act like they're not paying attention. And it's like they could have started those first initiations to being that prevention of them being led to these other schools, you know? But yeah.
No, that's great, and I'm glad you shared that because I've always heard this from other teachers. Because I've also had some friends who are teachers and told me that they actually quit being teachers because there's no leg room to change your curriculum. Basically, like if let's say you're teaching English,
Right.
there's already like a set curriculum for you. And you can change that curriculum, but you can't like super change it
exactly.
to the way you would want to do it, right?
It's because continuation schools are charter schools, which means they're flexible and they're not necessarily like they're with the MCOE, but they are like under something else afterwards, which makes them able to change all these things. Like that was like the same with us. Like if we wanted to learn about something else, then the teachers would be fine with it and they'd make us a new like curriculum the next day because like no one wanted to learn about like that.
Yeah. So okay, so great. So thank you guys for sharing that. Moving on, you mentioned, Adonis, resources that you connect these youth with on probation. What are some of those resources? I guess actually, James, you can answer that, and maybe Adonis, you can add some more detail to that.
I did Opening the World, which is here in Center Rafael. It's on 5th Street.
Okay.
And Janine Curley, she's really cool. She's like the mentor there. And me and her were really cool when I was doing it, like when I was placed up in it. But I've graduated from that. Now it's not like working for them really, but it's like helping them out. So I'm doing that until I'm of age to work for them.
Cool. And what is Opening the World exactly?
It's like, it's a nonprofit. I don't really know how to describe
it's a traveling.
Kind of.
Yes,
like,
I've heard of it. I just remembered. I was planning to apply for it. It's a like travel nonprofit where they take youth and you kind of do in a way missions where you go to like either another country or another state where they need help on like you rebuild homes and stuff like that. But that's like towards the summer, but then throughout the year you just go to various places to volunteer and help out.
Oh.
Yeah.
Right. So for us on probation, it was like we'd all go to one of their offices and it was like a group kind of thing like this. Like all of us are talking about certain stuff. So
What are your guys' backgrounds? Interesting.
That's amazing. And how Adonis, do you think you as a probation officer are providing the youth the right resources to be able to find their route in life?
Well, absolutely. A lot of the youth that we serve, they don't have these resources prior to being on probation, and perhaps they actually do, but they're just unaware of them. So just bringing that to light.
That's the big thing, and I think that's a huge issue in Marin County is that there is a lot of resources, but a lot of the resources that are available for youth are for youth that are already kind of like well off, or youth that already have like kind of everything they need, right? So it's just like, okay, here's more, right? There's not much resources for like youth who are, for example, on juvenile probation or are lower income.
Yeah. Like a lot of youth are at risk.
At risk, exactly. So no, it's really important to really set up the youth with those resources. But sorry, you can continue. I don't know.
In that regard, though,
Yeah.
shout out to Janine Curley. She's awesome. She's a founder of Open in the World. But she just had an event. It was called a listening session. But what happened was she received some funds. And instead of her and her team developing programs that they want to implement within the community, they took it upon themselves to invite youth within our community to come in, and they asked them a series of questions regarding what is it that you would like to see in your community? What do you feel as though your community is lacking? What are some of your interests? What are things that you'd like to partake in but don't necessarily have the resources? And then she also incentivized them too. She gave them $50, $50 gift cards just to come and just to give their perspective. And now they compiled that data, and that's what they're going to use to implement other projects that you'll see in the upcoming future. So Janine Curley, again, shout out to her. She's awesome. But then we have MCM, which is great as well, especially for our minorities. And that's really just mentorship. To give you a general synopsis of that, Kevin.
Yeah.
He's awesome. Shout out to Kev.
Yeah.
But he'll pick up my kids. He gets them gym memberships. So just developing that positive rapport. So often when you commit a quote unquote crime, you're labeled as what you guys just said, at risk youth. And sometimes, you are, right? But not everyone deserves a title. Not everyone understands what led that youth to doing what it is that they've done. Some people are just dealt a poor hand of cards. Nonetheless, building a rapport is essential, right? And that's what Kevin is awesome at. So sometimes you'll pick him up and just go to the, he just brought some kids to the
Giants game last week. Yeah.
That was huge.
I went with him.
Yeah, he went. Yeah.
That was huge. Takes them to the gym. He does a series of things. He'll go to their school. Sometimes these kids' parents, they don't advocate for them, right? So you'll see a lot of kids who have IEPs who may not need them, or you'll have a lot of kids who are disruptive in class, but because they're behind educationally, it's not just because they're being deviant, but they're yearning for something that they don't necessarily know how to ask for. So we're either quick to put them on medication, or we're quick to label them of some sort, as opposed to addressing the underlying issue. So again, shout out to Kevin. So MCM, Open in the World, we have a program called Family Springs, which is for substance abuse. That's excellent.
That's the one at the office, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, I did that too.
Yeah. So
How was that, James? How was that?
That was
experience?
cool. What were the two guys' names?
Victor is there now, and then there's a
Right.
young lady named Jamila who just replaced him.
Okay. When I was there, it was two guys, and they were really cool, but it's the same kind of thing. It's just talking, getting your,
So I see a common trend here. I see that there a lot of these resources, a lot of them involve talking about your background, and talking about just your experiences, because that's the other thing, man. And that's why I think just any justice system can get a little complicated sometimes. Is just understanding where people are coming from, right?
A lot of people don't want to hear it either.
Yeah.
Especially at court and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Or they're quick to put a Band-Aid on it, as opposed to, like I said previously, addressing that underlying issue, right? And that's how you also lower recidivism, because it's easy to give someone a slap on the wrist, sit them down in the hall, but if you haven't addressed what led them there, then it's just
They're gonna keep doing it.
that vicious cycle.
Right.
And then how do you penalize them for that if you didn't do your job or you didn't do your own due diligence to really invest in that youth?
Yeah.
How do you feel like these past 7 months have been for you? What has been the biggest, most like heart feeling that you've had with a youth? It can be with James or with any other youth.
It's a blessing, right? And oftentimes we're oblivious to what others go through because we're tunnel vision and within our own circumstances, and not to diminish what it is that we go through. But when you actually are fortunate enough to hear others people's hardships, it's humbling. It makes you look internally and say, hey, maybe this is not that bad, or maybe I should have reacted differently, all right, because my life could have been that much worse. So it's very humbling. It's unfortunate, but it's also rejuvenating because it gives you a sense of purpose, for me at least, right? My commute is the worst part of my job. But once I get there, I feel empowered. I don't know, I love it. And this is only month 7 and I have 32 years to go, but I'm looking forward to it. Like I said, being able to give these kids everything I yearned for, right? So giving them a blueprint to avoid the obstacles that I had to encounter, right? And some of them will listen. Sometimes a kid has to hear the same thing 3 times for it to finally register. But what I've noticed is just building a rapport, seeing them for who they are and not what they've done will go a long way.
Totally.
And I've had tremendous success within a short period of time just by that. But that's the difference in a job and a career as well. A job is just a vehicle to get you to the next destination, whereas a career is something that you enjoy waking up to do. It's something you look forward to doing. Once you're off the clock, you're still thinking about it, and that can be bad, right? You have to channel that. But I'm always trying to better myself, better those who I serve, and just see people for who they are, man.
I think that's like a huge thing. Like a lot of kids, when they do something wrong, like a crime, as you said, quote unquote, it comes like deeper. It's not just because like we want to do it. It's because of like how we are like within our homes, how our family treats us and stuff like that. And it's like a lot of us don't realize why we're acting out, but it's a lot because it has to do with how we were raised and how our family surrounds us. And it has to do with how your mother and father treated you growing up, because a lot of that goes back to like childhood trauma, emotional trauma, generational trauma. It all comes back to you, and it's like finding the way to be able to break that. And I thank you for your work, because I think that's a huge thing, being able to connect with a young adult, to be able to help him grow and not to be led back to there. So thank you.
It's funny you said roughly 80% of those who are in trouble or on probation have suffered from some form of trauma.
Yeah.
So it's,
Yeah.
I mean, that makes 100%
pivotal.
sense to me.
Well, a lot of people are oblivious to it. Sometimes you don't have the resources, though, to address it. Some kids are only on probation for 3 months, so I just may not have the time to do that. It may take that time alone just to build that rapport, to get them to open up about it.
Yeah.
Some kids are on probation for 6 months. Some are on for a year. Some are indefinite. So it's a negative perception when you hear indefinite probation, but that gives us ample amount of time to really get through to that kid, right? Because they already have their... First, my job is to disattach and disassociate the negative connotations and stigmatisms that come with probation. And once I can lower that barrier, then I can actually start to do my work.
Yeah.
And that may take, like I said, 3 months. And it all depends on the actual PO too. Not everybody is receptive to you based upon how you do your job. Maybe it's what you look like, who you identify with, et cetera, et cetera.
So you're saying some youth work better with other POs?
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Than other
Absolutely.
yeah.
Some do better with males.
Or
some
females.
Yeah.
Okay.
Despite their
Interesting.
Sorry. And for James, do you think the Marin County Probation Department has done a good job of being able to help in that sense, and like where you first started when you first were on probation to now?
I think it made me grow up a lot. It's kind of just like a different mindset. I'm just more thinking about my future now than I was before.
Okay, that's amazing. And sorry, I was going to just say, how has it been? Because you said he was your PO for the last, how many months? 6 months?
How many was it? Like 6 months, probably.
That's as long as I've
What was what is the sorry, I don't know how the probation department works with like switching POs. Like, was that your choice?
I switched 4 times. I don't know the reasons for some of them, but
Oh, okay.
So when you first get on probation, you have an intake officer. They're kind of like the investigator. It's their job to determine, based upon the circumstances that they're given in their investigation, it's their job to determine if you proceed within that probation journey. And then if you are deemed to be placed on probation, you'll then be placed with me, which is a supervision officer. If matters don't go well, then you can continue with the placement officer, and then the end of that journey will be a re-entry officer, which is pivotal because a lot of times we do great work, within a 6-month span. But then when we send that kid back to their communities with no reentry plan, then that recidivism starts again. So another thing is when POs retire, then you may have to transfer.
Yeah, that makes sense too.
Or promotions. And then we have 2 different units too. So you have adult and then juvenile. So once you become a senior, you can be sent anywhere. So that's ultimately why rarely will you ever change because you don't like your PO. It's generally 9 times out of 10 is a promotion or
next step.
Yep.
And James, during your time, in the juvenile justice system, what was kind of like a turning point for you, like in that moment, like where you were like, dang, okay, like I actually am feeling a change? Or what was like a moment where you felt like you really felt an actual like push?
I got on house arrest in like, I don't remember when, but like probably like the middle of my probation.
Yeah.
And I don't know, that it was like a good change, honestly, just because I was like completely just focusing on myself. Like it wasn't even like school and that kind of stuff, just completely all on me.
Yeah.
And so it just made me rethink a lot of things.
And when on house arrest, were you still going to school?
Yeah, you get to go to school and then straight back home. Or I mean,
so
you
that's
can
how that
go to
works.
work and stuff like that if you have that. But
So it's an ankle monitor,
Right.
referred to as EM. And you have one for, like he's talking about, just supervision.
It's just a tracker.
yeah, pretty much.
Yeah, ultimately.
Oh,
yeah.
okay.
But they have some for alcohol use as
Right.
well.
I had that one too.
I believe there's one for sex offenders too. And then the basic one.
Interesting.
How does the alcohol one?
It's got like 2 metal things on it, and it presses up on your ankle. And so it's like your
it measures your alcohol?
right. If you spit
levels?
alcohol out, then it'll like beep at you or something.
And okay, yeah, interesting.
If the ankle monitor goes off, does like a probation officer go straight to where
Well,
they are, or?
I've gotten like calls and stuff because my biggest problem was in PE. So I had 2, and when I would like do the running and stuff, it would just like hurt. It's just like painful.
Well, yeah.
And so
yeah.
every time it like moves, you get a tampering, or what is it's called tampering with something.
Like it like thinks that you're trying to take it
Right.
out, right?
So I got a bunch of calls just for that, and I'm like,
It's all about communication.
right.
Yeah.
Because we'll get alerted if it dies, if you're out of range. So I always tell,
The home base and stuff.
I always tell my youth, over communicate. Over. And I always tell them to text. And the youth nowadays, they like to text, but
Yeah.
it kind of helps both of us because everything is date and time stamped.
That's true. Interesting. And kind of talking about some more specifics on juvenile justice system. Let's say a youth under 18, right? What do they get? Okay, so I'm just thinking about how I should phrase this. So you know how there's misdemeanors and felonies, right? Is the same level of like if an adult were to do the same crime, if a youth were to do the same crime as an adult, would the consideration of it being a misdemeanor or felony be a little different? Like, is there different guidelines for what is a misdemeanor or felony for a youth compared to an adult?
No.
It's all the same.
Yeah, misdemeanor is a misdemeanor, felony is a felony. Now, the punishment may be different,
The punishment's different.
Yeah.
Okay.
but, murder is a murder.
Yeah.
Yeah, if a youth murders someone, it's not going to be a misdemeanor just because they're a youth. But as far as the level of punishment, we'll differentiate.
So, and then what misdemeanors typically are the kids that are on juvenile or people that go onto probation are part of a misdemeanor, or do you guys,
Oh, both.
or both?
Yeah.
Both felonies and misdemeanors.
Yeah.
Wow.
So the ones that felonies, they're going to be on longer
Gotcha.
as opposed to a misdemeanor.
So could you kind of just describe what are some of the crimes that are labeled as felony or misdemeanor?
So our felonies is the more egregious crimes.
Right.
So sexual assault, murder,
Yeah.
assault. Those are going to be the more egregious. And we don't really have many, especially since the DJJ system is closed down. We're trying to avoid incarcerating our youth.
Right.
So probation is kind of like a get out of jail free card.
Yeah.
If you're on monitor, that's technically the same as being incarcerated.
Incarcerated.
Yeah, because so if you're depending on the crime, that'll dictate the amount of days that you can be in the hall. But if we ever have you in the community, but on ankle monitor, that still accounts for those days. So obviously more misdemeanors than felonies.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking. Yeah.
Yeah. In Marin County, there's tons of DUIs.
Oh yeah.
For juveniles and adults. That was something that was surprising to me.
I've heard that a lot too in Marin County.
Yeah.
And I just to add a little bit to that, I think a big thing about it is because so Marin County has like a huge Latino culture, like huge, and we have a huge immigrant Latino culture. And the thing is, in South America and other parts of Latin America, youth start drinking super young, super duper young compared to like in the United States. And it's like just alcohol is just is unfortunately really embedded into the Latino culture that it's not too surprising to me to hear that a lot of the biggest cases here in Marin are because of DUIs because it's just such a big issue.
But can I ask a question?
Yeah, go for it.
Is the penalty level the same? Do they mirror each other?
Oh, like what do you mean?
A youth using substances
in Latin America, they're very different. No, they're very different.
Like age drinking is like 14, sometimes 16, and like most cops don't care.
Really?
Yeah, and I think the drinking age in Europe is 18.
Yeah,
if I'm not mistaken.
In Guatemala, I think it's 16, and they don't care.
Wow.
But here's the thing, though. In Latin America, there's like a bunch of like remote places, basically. Like they're basically like, yeah, let's say it's in Guatemala, but it's basically its own community. And that own little community, yes, they're under Guatemalan law, like of the state of Guatemala or the country of Guatemala, but they all have like their own rules, because these communities are so small. So, and that's where a lot of these immigrant kids that we're getting right now are coming from, are from these smaller communities where it's super common for them to start drinking at even 12, 11 years old, or start and they all drive by like 10, 11, you know what I mean? Like it's
you
just
see like a 8-year-old driving a truck
or something. Like it's just, I know it sounds ridiculous, but it's real.
Well, in counties like Marin, those who have more funds, it's actually more prevalent that you will start driving at a younger age, legally, I should say.
Wait, who have more what?
Like Marin has a lot of money.
Oh.
Yeah.
Tons of resources. So I've seen a lot of kids, like some of these kids are pulling up in Audis, like luxury vehicles, but just vehicles, period. Where I'm from, in like the Richmond, Contra Costa, Alameda area, if you see a kid driving, it's probably stolen, right? Unfortunately. But here, not only are they driving, but there's luxury vehicles. There's kids who's getting to school early just for a park, not necessarily for their education.
Yeah.
But, it's interesting.
And James, I actually wanted to ask you this question now that we're kind of talking more about like the demographics and kind of looking at Marin County as a whole. Did you grow up in Marin your whole life? You did?
Yeah.
Okay, so growing up in Marin, what are some of the issues that you saw? Like, I know you saw some of them in high school, but like in general, like what are some of the issues you see within youth themselves?
Honestly, I think there needs to be more stuff that like poorer kids can do, because I wasn't able to do a bunch of the stuff my friends were doing through elementary and middle school and stuff like that. So like I would find the kids who also couldn't do that stuff, and we'd go do our own thing. Like there's not a lot of things for us to do other than.
So like a lack of like we were saying
We've
earlier.
talked about that so many times. There's such a huge lack of like resources or like a place for us to go to and to just like be able to hang out, and where it's like not expensive or like is free. And
Boredom
it's like
will screw you over.
Yeah.
But that's one thing that probation taught me too. Boredom's a good thing.
It kind of helps you like just find what you love, and then like finding a hobby, and then just continuing to do that.
Yeah, because dude, these like soccer camps, these basketball, these these sports camps can get really expensive, especially here in Marin County, right? Where like supposedly everyone in Marin County is rich, which is such a dumb assumption that I hear everyone who isn't from Marin County say all the dang time.
It's a rich county.
It is a rich county, but not everyone is rich. Like we have such a big gap in people who are of lower income and high income. You know what I mean? So it's like, yeah, thank you for sharing that, because it's true. It's true. And then I just think there's still just not enough things for youth to do after school. There just still is not enough. Like
I was skating for a little while, and that's when they made that skate park in Fairfax, and they had one in Red Hill already, but the skateboards and scooters kind of just like went away recently. Like I haven't seen a lot of kids skating or scootering.
Really?
Me too. I used to skateboard when I was younger with my brothers, and I feel like ever since like a few years ago, not that many people have been like skateboarding or anything like that. But I don't know why. It just kind of fell off in a way.
Interesting. Yeah.
And
Go ahead.
sorry, are you gonna ask?
No, go ahead. Go ahead.
This is kind of relating, but to Adonis, what's an issue that you mainly see within youth here in Marin County, since it's different and you haven't necessarily grown up here?
An issue?
Yeah.
Or maybe the disparities that you see, or
Yeah.
like,
I think it's just the trauma that hasn't been resolved. Sometimes there's kids in the hall who don't have any family to go to, so they have to stay there. Sometimes, like he was just saying, there's nothing to do after school. There's no motivation. IEPs is huge.
What's
No-
IEP?
I have one. It's something you get for school if like you can't focus and stuff. It's kind of like you get benefits for being at school if you
Oh.
yeah. So a lot of kids just say that they suck at school and that kind of stuff to get these benefits.
oh,
What is it? Does it stand for something?
I'm not sure.
Yeah, I'll look it up for you. But sometimes, a lot of times, what I see is kids that have ADHD. They'll have them, anxiety and depression. Those three are the three that I see the most frequent. But ultimately, they just get extra assistance in class. Sometimes they could get pulled out of class. And that's really all it is, just extra assistance.
Individualized education program.
Yeah, there you go.
Oh, interesting.
For mine,
So that's
I get like a 20-minute break each class.
oh,
That,
so
that was what I had at Archie, and at San Andreas, I haven't really used my IP or nothing, but like technically, you still can.
I
So it's
think
like
when you take like the standard test too, you get to be in a different place.
Right.
You get a little more time.
Yeah.
so it's like a special accommodation.
Yeah.
For specific
Yeah.
students. Yeah.
College of Marin has that with a lot of students. Like if you have ADHD or anxiety.
Oh, every school has to have
Yeah.
it. It's actually a lot of laws around it.
Oh,
Yeah, I
really?
mean, it makes
I did not
sense.
know that.
Yeah, you have to be tested. And that could be a huge lawsuit. I have some kids who are undergoing those lawsuits as well right now.
Because they're not getting the IEP.
Yeah, they're not getting the services. And if a parent like asks for their child to be tested and you deny them, you can get in
Wait,
trouble.
schools deny them?
Yeah. Well, so when a kid gets an IEP, sometimes the school may have to place him based upon what that IEP says. The kid may not be fit for a school within a district, so then the school has to pay them. So it can get expensive if you have to remove the kid.
Wait, like they can't place them because they can't fit their accommodations, or
Yeah, because IEPs.
Oh.
Yeah. So a lot of kids on probation that are like getting in a lot of trouble, they have IEPs. So it could be a combination of them being a little behind educationally, in addition to the disruptive behavior for whatever reason, and that could be caused because of them being behind, or they could just just be bad.
Yeah. Okay. So, kind of moving forward here, I wanted to ask, and then I want to hear your perspective on this, James. Is what happens in juvenile court? What happens? How is it like?
Well, my first couple times, I wasn't actually like allowed to speak. Really, it was kind of just like so. I had a public defender, and it was pretty much just her talking to the judge and everything. Like they're all having a conversation,
Like explaining
Yeah.
why you were
Right.
Yeah. Okay.
and you're just sitting there. So, I mean, in the beginning, it was fine. They just gave me a bunch of warnings because I was on diversion, and then there's another type of probation, and then I got on wardship probation. So I was in and out of the court for a minute, but it was different every time. There's a new judge now, and so when I got off, it was a whole different judge than I started off with.
Interesting.
do you feel like you got a fair case?
I think I got a little bit too much time for what I did, but at the same time, I'm not mad about it because it did help me.
Okay. So all in all, the end was
Right.
a good thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that's ultimately what the probation department wants to do, and what you've been preaching is just that, ultimately you want things to end on a good note with every youth that you're with.
Oh yeah,
right.
absolutely.
You don't want them to end or just go back to the streets or go back to doing the same thing. Like it's just that's not the end goal here. So it's really really refreshing and really good for me to hear all this because, like I said, I come from a background where my brother was really into doing like a lot of stuff outside in the streets and getting into trouble. But since he was a newcomer coming into this country, he wasn't given the same resources as a citizen here in the United States. So it's just always good to hear kind of really how the probation department works here in Marin County. And actually, laws have changed a lot. Laws have changed a lot in, like, let's say since 2007, I would say 2006, 2007. Yeah, things have really, really changed.
The only thing I wish is that they would kind of explain to the juveniles a little bit more about what court's going to be like. A lot of kids just like go in there and then they just sit down and not know what's going on, really.
And when you're in court, is there different? Are there other youth there, or is it just like a one-on-one kind of?
For juvenile, it's one-on-one, but there is a lot of kids outside of the courtroom.
Oh, so they're all waiting.
It's just one after another.
Oh God, yeah.
So you have in custody kids will go to court on Mondays, at least for Marin. In custody kids will go to court on Mondays. Out of custody will be on Wednesdays. So everyone is told to arrive at the same time, but that doesn't necessarily mean that their case will be heard first. So they'll be waiting in the lobby. And that's actually a huge discrepancy. And not just with the youth. Spanish speakers or bilingual, or I guess monolingual that don't speak English.
Yeah.
They'll sit in court and they won't understand what's going on. And then after court, their PO will get a series of questions and concerns. Another thing that I notice is, not all the time, but sometimes when kids from other countries come over, or that they're raised here, but their guardians are not.
Yeah.
The kid, obviously, first language will be English. So they understand a lot more than their guardians do. So it's easy to persuade them. They may belittle everything that went on in court just so that their parents won't be so hard on them.
That's true. Yeah.
I've learned that. So some of these kids are pretty slick.
Yeah, they'll totally play it off.
Yeah.
Like, really, really play it off. Yeah, that's actually a really huge point there that I didn't really take into account, but that makes sense.
Pretty sophisticated.
Yeah. So
I kind of want to go back to what you said on saying you think you served a little more time than you should have. And for Adonis, is there a way, if a youth tells you, I think I'm serving too much time, I don't think I should have this much time, is there a way that you can help, like, remove the sentence,
reduce
it, or like speak to the judge, or like, is there a process that you both can go through?
Yeah, I can go first. So a lot of times, well, all the time, you're going to be sentenced, whatever you're going to be sentenced, or given whatever amount of time you're going to be given. And like I said, generally is 3 months, 6 months, a year, or indefinite. Indefinite is 7 years or up until the age of 25. Now,
and I'm assuming that's what, more like felony type case?
No. It could just be, you could start off, just petty theft, right? And just get diversion for 3 months and then not be doing what you're supposed to be doing. And then it just gradually escalates. But a lot of times in the youth, they control their own fate. And that's what I tell them all the time. If you were given 6 months, if you want to get off in 3, you just have to give me enough ammunition to convey to the judge as to why I should, recommend that you be off. So if you're on probation for 6 months and you're not doing anything, then you're going to make us both, look like we don't know what we're talking about. So I'm all about transparency. So I tell my youth, even if they were given 20 hours of community service, I say, do 30. Let's give the judge another reason as to why you should get off, right? If they say get a job, let's get a job. Let's do more community service work. If you have a 2.0, let's get it to at least a 2.5. Let's do more, right? It takes 30 days to build a habit, and it takes 30 days to break one. So
interesting. Yeah.
Let's kind of disassociate ourselves from whatever we were doing to get us here, and then kind of change our avenue and our path. But by giving them the resources, not just telling them what to do, but holding their hand through that process, and then letting it go and allowing them to make the mistakes that they need to make, those learning curves. But at the end of the day, like I said, they're given a set of time that us as POs, technically we have a say-so. And when I say that, we're expected to give our recommendation. Now it's ultimately up to the judge to decide if they're going to agree or disagree, as well as so you have the public defender who's going to defend the youth, and then you have the district attorney. He or she is going to have her own recommendation. Being that the probation officer works hand in hand with the youth, our recommendation is generally taken more times than not. But it all depends on like their track record and the other circumstances that go into their situation. Because even if they don't have, or even if they haven't committed an egregious crime, like I said, petty theft. Yeah. Well, maybe home is not where it's supposed to be, right? Maybe there's no supervision. Maybe they have horrible attendance. Maybe their grades are poor. So even though they only did petty theft, maybe we need to keep them on probation longer, despite the less crime that they did.
I see what you mean.
That way we can actually give them the resources they need. Because ultimately, if it's just petty theft, but then they're going to go home and I see that there's 3 CFS reports. I get their school grades or they haven't been to the doctor in 3 years or the dentist. It's like, okay, this is so much bigger than just this petty theft. Thank God they actually committed this petty theft because now I can give them what it is that they need. They may not have Medi-Cal or insurance. Maybe, mom and dad's not there and they're being raised by a sibling. So now I can get everyone assistance. When a youth is placed on probation, we're not just catering to the youth. We're catering to whoever their legal guardians are. Sometimes we're actually helping who's ever been watching them get legal guardianship because they may not have them. So it's really a blessing in disguise. And the youth's initial reaction to it is always going to be negative. As you just heard James say, he thought he had too much time, but he's appreciative of it now because we're now able to look at where his life was as opposed to where it is now. And he's done superb. I didn't even want to get him off just because he's doing so well. Yeah. And but we have this positive report now, and it stemmed from just 6 months, right? And now look where we're at now. The opportunities he's been given. If only you guys knew where he started, where he's at now. You got to be amazed if you're not already. But nonetheless, we've kind of went away from the initial question. But yes, my job ultimately is just to submit a memo to the judge. If I feel like the kid is doing really well, he or she doesn't need to be in the whole 6 months. But I just have to be able to articulate why. So I always put the ball back into the youth's hands. Generally, they have what's called a JUV9, and that'll outline all of their requirements. So like I said, it's staying in school. If they have a stay away contact order, stay away from them. So basically, as long as they're checking off all those boxes, then we should be good. But I always tell them to do more. Let's not even, we just want a home run, right? We don't want to just get to first or second base. We want it to be a home run. We want to be able to say he or she did A, B, C, D, which is what required, plus, LMNOP and all the other stuff. So my job's easy in that regard because once I'm able to help them understand the process, like you just said, a lot of times they don't know. So it's just me educating them, and then they appreciate that component alone. And then assisting them to do all of these things that I'm asking them to do, then they appreciate that even more because when I say we as minorities, or just me growing up, I didn't really have, shout out to my mom. She's excellent, right? Taking nothing from her, but it was just watching what she had to go through. That was hard. The limited resources that I had, that was hard too. So just giving them that, like I said, I keep saying it, but just giving them everything that I've earned, building that rapport, goes a long way.
Thank you. And James, would you like to add anything to this?
I mean, I agree. Like we were talking about how, like, if you can get off early, you definitely can. I was actually supposed to get off early, and I ended up messing that up for myself. But Adonis, instead of being like, you mess this up, like you're just gonna be on probation, like he was actually helping me get off. Like he was like, we have to do this now to get back on track and everything, and we'll be fine. So
that's amazing.
It was cool. It wasn't
we can choose, not to cut you off, but we can choose, or we have a little discretion, right? Every quote unquote bad thing that they do, we don't necessarily have to report. We have to do something though, and it can be as low as just a conversation, or it could be as high as going to the hall. So I love helping them figure out what they did, right? Because sometimes they don't think that what they did was bad. Like, let's say we have somebody who loves marijuana. Because they're a kid, they obviously shouldn't be doing it. Right. But once you get to understand why they're doing it, sometimes it may just be peer pressure, but sometimes it's because home is so bad that they just absolutely need that. So then
an escape. Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah. But for like legitimate reasons though. So then we need to address those, then give them solutions and alternatives, as opposed to just issuing some form of a reprimand.
Yeah, that's totally true. And now that you're off probation, can the probation department still work with these youth, or?
I still text Adonis all the time.
Okay, so that's
stuff I need help with.
Communication is still there, but is probation, the department itself, there still for that youth, or no?
Yes and no. So I always tell all of my kids to reach out to me for absolutely anything. Just because of my title alone, I have access to tremendous amount of resources. But probation actually funds a lot too. We contract with a lot of agencies and nonprofits, so we can. It's easy as me just calling Janine and say, "Hey, I have this kid who's no longer on probation." But again, shout out to Janine Curley. She's probably one of the greatest resources in Marin, but she's also a therapist. So she does individual counseling and family.
Nice.
She also gets families assistance with couples counseling. You name it. And regarding the abroad stuff that she does, so actually this month, right? She's taking kids to Arizona for 2 weeks, and then the next 2 weeks they're going to Japan.
Ooh, yeah,
So
I heard about that.
some of these kids,
awesome.
yeah, it's dope. Some of these kids though, they don't even leave their counties, let alone the country. So she's helping them get their passports, right? So, anyways, but yes, so we also have a Career Explorer program, which is a paid internship.
I did
Yeah.
that.
Yeah. So it's
That's how she got into this.
oh yeah,
Into
see?
No.
radio, right? Or that was through the other thing.
That was the Presente. No.
Presente career. No, but you were you were getting paid here through career.
I did work with the probation department. I was an intern with them
Nice.
for about like 4 years with Luis and
Luciana,
Cindy.
yeah.
Yeah, I was, and then the probation department was paying me for doing this.
Yeah.
Yeah.
This was my little thing with them.
Does Louis
Yeah.
still have his office over there?
No, he switched. He doesn't work with the probation department anymore.
Yeah, Cindy's still there though.
Cindy's still there though. Yeah.
But that's another thing too in that regard. If a youth has an interest in something, like
Yeah.
I don't want to say, but let's just say you want to box, right? Probation will actually pay for your lessons
Yeah.
if you want
That's
to do
what they
that.
did with me.
So we'll incentivize our kids. A lot of times, they're not couch potatoes because they want to. They don't have the resources. Nobody just
And there's no one there to push them to say, hey,
or just
check
spark
this
the
out.
interest.
Yeah.
Maybe their self esteem's just not there. A lot of times, my job is just to help them see the potential in themselves. But anyways, we'll fund things. So it's referred to as a pro-social activity. So I just say, hey, what do you like to do? And then they tell me whatever it is, and then I go out and find something, and then we pay for it. But the Career Explorer opportunity, that's an 8-week paid internship.
Yeah.
Yeah.
First 2 weeks you get $100 stipend. The next 6 weeks we actually pay you $17.50 an hour, up to
Above
25
minimum
hours.
wage. That's
Yeah,
pretty
man.
good.
And
Wait, are the applications still on?
it just closed on the 24th.
Yeah.
Dang. I'm gonna email Cindy about it.
Well, I mean,
Is she running it?
Cindy's no, she's still there though.
Oh.
Her office is actually right next door to mine. Cindy's cool. Shout out to Cindy.
Yeah, she's so sweet.
Yeah, she's awesome.
Are you part of that? Did you sign up for that
I
or no?
will be once, or yeah, this summer.
Yeah, I got my.
I
So
could be on it,
any of my kids
hopefully.
or any kids that's on probation have a guaranteed spot. But he's no longer on probation. But
Because there's a lot of applicants. I remember.
oh, yeah, we had over 150 this year.
Yeah.
Last year we only accepted 50. This year we're accepting 75 just because of how much we had. And it's a blessing because they, like I said, they can make up $2,850, and then we partner them with an organization within the community. A lot of times kids go to college or they aspire to do something, then when they actually start doing it, they hate it. So we're giving them the opportunity to get like a general synopsis of what it is that they're interested in while making money. It's tailored to their schedule. So if they have another job or if they're in school or playing sports, they can still do it. So it's up to 25 hours. They don't have to do the whole 25. And the cool thing is it's from ages 14 to 22, something like that. And you could do it every year if you want. So if you're not on probation, though, it is an interview stage, and that's kind of how we weed out the kids. But it's ultimately tailored to those youth that we're talking about right now who don't have the resources, who probably want to be a lawyer, but maybe they have an IEP and they think they're just not good enough, or who just can't see that far down the road. We often tell our kids, look down the road, have a backup plan for everything. But I always tell them, look down the road and around the corner, always. But anyways, we have to help them do that. So that's ultimately who it's tailored for, but there is an interview process. But you could do it every year. And I encourage the youth to do that too. Like if you want to do law, 1 year do the public defender's office, next year do the attorney, next year do probation. That way you have a different lens and perspective.
Of what you want to go into.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Cool. And James, what are your plans looking like now that you're off probation? Like what do you hope to kind of move forward with?
Well, I recently got a job and also this program thing, so this summer is mostly just starting working and stuff like that, and also my
You
license.
said you're going to be a probation officer, right?
Oh. No, he's.
To be honest, I do like I would want to do something like Janine Curley's doing, like that kind of group kind of work.
So like the opening the world stuff. Okay, interesting.
So you're working with them now, opening the world, or?
Kind of, because technically I got to be 18, but so I'm doing this other thing, which is just like helping them out, making the
So you're volunteering basically with them now
Right.
until you can.
Right.
Oh, that's
But
amazing.
just to give him a shout out, he's already been offered a job. So once he turned 18, he already has that luxury. He also completed the Next Gen program. So once he's turned 18, he'll have that opportunity as well. He just secured another job. I won't say where, but that's why I said this kid's amazing. He already has 3 things set up.
That's another thing that I feel like a lot of the kids on probation should do. They should do the Next Gen stuff.
Yeah, what is that?
I got my OSHA credentials, so I can go into
Construction?
all that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
So it's 3 months or 3 weeks.
I think it was 3 months.
So it's a 3-month program if they're under the age of 18, but they get exposed to different like trades, construction, electrician, plumbing, any and everything that's lucrative, really, but the essential skills, because college is not for everyone.
Yeah.
But anyways, it's just 3 months and they learn these trades, these skills, and then once they turn 18, Next Gen will actually give them a job.
Like an apprenticeship somewhere.
No, they're gonna get them a job, yeah.
Oh, get them a job. Okay.
And then for you got like a toolkit, right? When you completed it?
When you finish, they give you a toolkit, and I think they said the price of it was like $600, but you get like a bunch of tools, like actual like
powered, like a power drill, like a portable.
Yeah.
Oh wow.
Yeah, and that
that's really
stuff
Pretty
not
nice.
cheap.
Yeah, it's not cheap. I know. So cool. So then, kind of in that Next Gen program, what did you kind of find an interest in?
My dad's an electrician, so that's probably something I'd want to do if I go into that field. But I also want to get some of my welding credentials, and also I need to do some kind of math class in college to be.
And you already have a business, right?
Yeah.
What do you do?
I have a yard work business.
Yard work business. Look at you, James.
Told you,
All right.
You're doing a lot.
Yeah, you're doing a lot for your age. Yeah, that's huge. Yeah, and I'm totally such a huge advocate for people doing a trade after high school or doing it, and I feel like I think it's actually no. I think more people are starting to understand that yes, there is a lot of money in trade, just as there is as someone going into college. And I think like you said, college isn't for everyone. It just depends on what you want to do, right? And I'm glad that probation can help provide that kind of guidance on kind of like, like what do you want to kind of delve into, and they give you all these different resources.
Right.
Because I'm assuming you also help kids who, let's say, who do want to go to college, help them out with
Absolutely.
that process as well.
That's part of the Next Gen program as well.
Okay, so Next Gen. Oh, it kind of covers. So it covers college and trades. Oh,
I was referring to the Career Explorer program. So that first 2 weeks, they go over college prep, writing skills, oral skills, interviewing, and resume.
Yeah.
They do all that.
They do everything.
And stuff like that, though.
But we also work with Marin Community, the college. It's a program called Rising Scholars. So we work with them. So we'll have a counselor sit with them and outline everything. And they don't necessarily have to go to that school.
Yeah.
But we'll just have a college associate. If they want to go to UC Berkeley, Marin Community will come out and work with them to help them get there.
awesome.
That's amazing.
So
Pretty dope.
yeah, that's great. So we're kind of coming towards the end of the show here. So I wanted to give you guys a chance to kind of say anything else you guys wanted to end the show on. Any?
I kind of want to have
Kim-
a last question type of wrap
yeah.
up. Can you, James, tell the audience, anyone who is on probation, like the biggest message that you want to send to them, like to give them, like, I think, hope in a way, because I think sometimes in the beginning it seems like, oh dang, like I just made a crime, like I'm gonna like
my life's over.
yeah, my life's over, like, because it's not.
How I thought about it like that too. Like I was all pissed off I got on, but at the same time, I'm also like, I'm happy that I did it when I was a kid instead of an adult. Like all my stuff is erased now. Like I don't have any charges from before, nothing like that no more. But
So do you end on a clean record?
So you have
kids do.
You have
kids?
three different options. If you're on juvenile status, yes, you have 3 options. So you could be terminated successfully. In the event that you're terminated successfully, we'll do our own work and we'll clean that slate.
Oh, nice.
So
It's no longer.
expunge. But you can also be terminated unsuccessful, meaning probation no longer has jurisdiction over you, but you still have that open and unsealed record. And then the third option will obviously just be escalated. So from diversion to 654.2 to wardship to indefinite and so on and so forth.
Right.
Okay.
But yeah, it's really just like for me, it was just a mindset change. Like I just needed to get out of whatever mindset I was having back then of just like school stupid, this kind of stuff. You just got to think about your future more than just the present.
Totally. Well, great. Well,
Thank you.
I appreciate you guys. Thank you both for being so honest and for sharing again all the resources and all the experiences you guys have been through. Again, the type of information, these type of conversations are really important to have because they're not given very much often or really talked about here in Marin County. Because here in Marin County, most of the people like to make it seem like it's the oasis, like a perfect place where like everyone's just like everyone's really rich, everyone's really happy, everyone's really equality's everywhere, and that's just complete BS. So
it's
yeah,
me being from Richmond, I mean, that's all you only hear about the positives of
in Marin
this
County.
And I think that's a great thing in a way. When you hear about Richmond or Contra Costa or Alameda, all negative, even SF, I guess the larger counties in a way, but these smaller counties, that's all I heard. And then you look at Tiburon, which is beautiful, Sausalito. Like I would never come out here unless I was going
to a fancy restaurant or something.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Rooftop or even Shake Shack, because that was one of the first ones that was in California.
Oh, really? I didn't even know that.
Yeah, it's from the East Coast. So whenever I would go to like New York over there, I would always go. So I think Shake Shack in Larkspur might have been the first one.
California, wow.
Yeah.
No wonder the line was so big there.
Oh, yeah. But anyways, yeah, so I kind of fall in that category of thinking that it was glorious. I now have a different interpretation, but it's solely because I'm a probation officer, so I see the reality.
Yeah.
Especially in like San Rafael. So like we have like the San Rafael Canal Novato area. Those are like quote unquote trouble areas.
Yeah.
San Rafael is doing a lot of I don't want to say the wrong words. But anyways, it's not that much low income housing, I'll put it that way. So a lot of people are migrating to the Novato area. So now
even Nevada's getting expensive.
Now
Everyone starts going to Sonoma County.
Well, the cases are increasing there, but it's because people are migrating from one city to another. So if I wasn't a probation officer, I would still be one of those oblivious people who thought Marin was just perfect.
And that's how it is with most people that I meet from. I always like saying this is that I feel like just Marin County is such a bubble. And since it's such a bubble, a lot of the people from the Bay Area, like we're still part of the Bay Area, but it doesn't, Marin County to me doesn't feel like the Bay Area. You know, I go to the East Bay, I go to Oakland, I go to Berkeley, like all these places. And I'm just like, this feels so different from Marin County because it is different. Yeah. It really is.
And it's very historical. I go to, I don't say all, but a lot of community events, and I'm learning a lot. So I think that's what it boils down to, just the lack of education. When you look at the cost of living, it's ridiculous. So that alone, you would think that this is a perfect area. But Marin has a lot to offer. We just have to find a way to get our youth interested and just make it more known, honestly, because there is a lot of resources. It's just they're not as easily accessible.
I don't think I would have found it without probation, to be honest, because I never heard about any of this stuff without probation.
Yeah,
like any of the programs or nothing.
Yeah,
I think more kids need to be on probation because probation is
but
not,
in a good way.
In a good way,
it's not a bad thing at all. I mean, what you did to get yourself there may have been, but once you're there, man, take advantage. A lot of the parents, like you said, you guys are talking about how they don't really know what's going on. But after we educate them and they realize how we're going to make their life so much easier, they don't even want their kids getting off.
Yeah.
That's so true. Yeah.
All right. Well, thank you both. Guys. We're at the end of our show. But thank you, James and Adonis, for being on. And we'll catch you guys in the next episode.
Yep.
All right. Take care, guys.
Bye.
Bye-bye.